Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, May 21st, 2025. I am Dave Biddle. I'll be joined by Steve Helwagen in just a moment. So who are going to be the captains for the Buckeyes this fall? Let's assume they're going to just do 4 captains again. Who are they going to be? Last year they had they had such a huge senior class, and a lot of those guys were great leaders as well. So who's going to replace those guys as captains this year? We're going to get into that, give our best guess. Steve and I will. I'm going to get Steve's thoughts on what does he expect to happen with Michigan and what sanctions they'll be facing, because that's obviously a hot topic of conversation around college football right now, certainly on Bucknuts. I'm curious what Steve thinks will happen to Michigan. Will it be a slap on the wrist? Probably not. Will it be the absolute hammer, death penalty and strip the championship? Probably not. Somewhere in the middle. But where in the middle, though? Is closer to a death penalty than slap on the wrist, or dead in the middle somewhere? We'll get Steve's thoughts on that. And we have other football topics we're going to talk about as well, like Steve's best guess on when the Texas game will kick off and some things like that. But we're going to end the show talking some Ohio State basketball. Yes, Ohio State men's basketball. They might get a really good transfer. Darrion Williams. They have one spot left. He would be a plug and play at the 3. Really good player from Texas Tech. Of course, Kansas is in on him, so we'll get Steve's thoughts on that. Steve covers basketball closer than maybe anybody that I know. Not maybe, definitely. All right, before we do all that, I do want to let you guys know about our friends over at Factor again, and an awesome deal you guys can get, like 50% off. I've talked a lot about Factor. It's delicious, nutritious meals are ready in 2 minutes, fresh, never frozen. Pop them in your microwave, ready in 2 minutes. No prep, no mess, nothing to clean up, and it's healthy, tastes great, and couldn't be more convenient. So highly recommend it. And again, we got a great deal for you guys. Personally, I like a lot of their meals they have. A lot of different chicken dishes that I like grilled chicken and sun-dried tomatoes. They also have a steak meal that I like that comes with garlic mashed potatoes and green beans. It's just really good stuff. All right, here you go, guys. Get started at factormeals.com/bucknuts50 off. Use code bucknuts50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code bucknuts50 off at factormeals.com/bucknuts50 off for 50% off plus free shipping. It's a great deal. All right, so get with that. All right, let's get with Steve Helwagen. The Wagon. We like to call him the Wagon. What's up, Wagon?
Oh, just wiping the sleep out of my eyes, getting ready to go here on a beautiful Wednesday. Got fog out there, kind of some foggy conditions, 61 degrees. High today in Columbus, 68, off and on rain, so take an umbrella.
Yeah, let's hope there's baseball in Pittsburgh today and the Red Sox.
I know. We got to win that one, Dave.
Neat.
Why didn't your boy pinch hit the red hot Will Benson or Gavin Lux? Probably more Benson. I mean, because one swing of the bat could have tied it, and Espinal wasn't going to do that. And of course, hindsight's always 20/20. But he could have dropped a bunt there and moved the runner to second base and not killed the inning with the double play. But that's hindsight. But whatever. Add that game to the pile of games they should have won. So there you go.
Yeah, but they're sitting there at 500. They got they got to start beating the teams they need to beat. All right, so captains this coming year. So I think on defense, I'm pretty confident. Well, I know for sure, in my opinion, Sonny Styles will be a captain. He'll probably wear the block O. He'll be the captain. There's no doubt about it. I think Caleb Downs will be a captain. I know he's a junior, not a senior, but this is his last year, and he was a leader of men last year. He was one of the catalysts of that. The famous players meeting. Well, the coaches were in there too. When they had to get some things off their chest, they'll come to Jesus moment. And Caleb Downs was one of the most outspoken guys, from what I was told, that took part in that. So I think he'll be a captain. Offense, man, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe Carson Hinsman, 4th-year junior at center. Of course, he was in the doghouse as recently as last year. So who knows, Steve? Carnell Tate, I think he's another one that'll be in the mix. Will Kazmarek maybe is a 5th-year senior, a guy they really like who works hard. Maybe Jeremiah Smith. I don't know. What do you think? Captains.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cut and dried on defense, like you said. I agree that Sonny Styles is going to be the probably the block O person, and with Caleb Downs, the junior, it is rare for a junior to be a captain, but it definitely happens and has happened in the past. I think with Styles, I want to point out, I just did a story that's on the site about his brother, Lorenzo Jr., and his father, Lorenzo Sr., graduating from Ohio State on the same day, which was pretty amazing. Lorenzo Sr. came back as part of the outreach program as a former athlete to get his degree. And then also Sonny Styles and Lorenzo Jr. are part of a fundraiser for the Huckleberry House, which supports homeless children in Central Ohio, gives a shelter to kids 12 to 17, apartments for young adults 18 to 24 who are really kind of in a tough bind, maybe some single mothers and different things like that, and just all kinds of other programs to help the youth of Central Ohio. So to me, what those guys are doing is just amazing in our community. And I think that they deserve a lot of credit. There's a fundraiser coming up, the Sleep Out, a week from Friday at the Audubon Society Park and south of downtown Columbus. And I think that, you got to tip your cap to those guys for taking that on. So I look at Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs on defense. Offense, I'm going to say Austin Sierraveld. He was an Iron Buckeye this past winter. Yep. One of 3 on the team with Caleb. Was it Jeremiah Smith, and who was the other one offhand?
Oh, it was Sonny Styles.
Sonny Styles. Okay, well, that makes perfect sense. I think Austin Sierraveld is going to start probably at right tackle, and I think that you could make him a team captain based, on the Iron Buckeye thing, even though he's only a junior. I think Carson Hinsman as the leader of the offensive line is a possibility as well, as you said. And then one name you didn't mention, but a guy who's also involved in that meeting and a spiritual leader for the team is Brandon Ennis, who could be a guy who moves into a starting spot at wide receiver. He and Carnell Tate are both juniors. So do you pick between those two? Does Ennis have more leadership qualities? I think Tate has come a quantum leap, obviously, and he's been forced, unfortunately, to deal with reality at a very young age with some of the life things that he's been through and his mother, being shot and killed. But I think that, there's really no wrong answer to this question. And I think that for the team to vote on it, that will give you your indication of who they really put their stock and belief in. But I think we've named a lot of the top candidates, and there aren't any seniors hardly on this team. I mean,
right.
You grab these rosters, Dave, the offense and defense from the spring game, and our buddy Jerry Emig, I don't know if you could see it, he puts a junior and then a slash and, 1 or 2 beside it. There ain't many ones. There ain't many people with 1 year of eligibility left on this team. So I think that bodes well for 2026 if they can keep most of the guys who are going to start this year around for 1 more year. But, not a lot of senior leadership expected on this team. And I want to say I did a story on one of the guys in this class, it'd be the 2022 recruiting class. There's only like 8 or 9 out of 24 signees left on the team. Like they've all transferred out. So yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I was looking at the offense. Cause again, I think we all agree Sonny and Caleb Downs are just pretty much locks to be captains on defense. But I was looking at the offense. I'm like, man, there's only one senior that'll be starting on the offensive line, and that's Ethan Onionwa. They're not going to have even Will Howard last year wasn't technically a captain. He basically was, because they're not going to have a transfer in his first year be a captain. I think if you've been here 2 years, Caleb Downs, Will Kazmarek. I don't think Kazmarek will be. I bet he's a guy that I wouldn't rule out. I'll just say that. I wouldn't rule him out. He is a 5th-year senior, one of the few seniors they have on the offense. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, Sierraveld, good call on your part. Only a 3rd-year sophomore, but again, only one of 3 guys to be Iron Buckeye. Again, Sonny Styles and J.J. Smith, the other 2. All right, my man, I've talked a lot about what I think is going to happen with Michigan. I'm curious. We're getting closer and closer to the date, man. Get your popcorn ready. June 6th and 7th is the hearing in Indianapolis, Committee on Infractions. I'm not sure exactly when we're going to learn the penalties, but I imagine it won't be too long after that. What do you expect will happen, Steve?
Well, I can't imagine them taking 18 months and not throwing the book, at these people. And I think that they're going to get hit with some heavy sanctions. I think, Ohio State had to have a year of a postseason ban for the tattoo gate and vacate the season, to me, this is every bit as important as that, because this really strikes at the integrity of the game. And they stole victories from a lot of people in that 2 or 3 year period. So whatever it was. So, it's not about, sign stealing. It's about in-person scouting, and people kind of conflate and mistime it or misname it. Sign stealing, while it kind of breaks the unwritten rule, it's not frowned. I mean, it's frowned upon, but it's not breaking a rule per se. Just as it isn't in Major League Baseball. They have to hide their signs. If you want to keep your signs for the pitches secret, they have the new pitch thing that comes up in the pitcher's ear, and that's how they avoid the runner at second base or somebody with binoculars in the outfield stealing the sign. So for football, to me, what they did was really struck at the integrity of the game. You could tell Tony Petitti was disgusted by the whole thing, the way he sat out Harbaugh for the last 3 regular season games 2 years ago in 2023. So obviously they have already penalized Sharon Moore and taken a self suspension for games 3 and 4 of the upcoming season. Michigan has. We'll see if the NCAA adds to that. But I think they're going to have to vacate wins for one or both seasons. And then whether that means they vacate the national championship, that's not for me to say. But I suppose that could be a byproduct of it. I mean, the Big Ten does not count. Ohio State is a Big Ten champion in 2010, the year that they had to vacate, even though they shared it that season. So, to me, I think that's something you have to think of. Maybe the Big Ten will vacate that championship that Michigan won 2 years ago, the Big Ten championship. And I do believe maybe a 1 year postseason ban is in order here, which would come up this season. And if that happens, do players go into the portal from Michigan, Bryce Underwood, or anybody else? Although he's got quite a contract up there, young Mr. Underwood, who's yet to throw a pass, already probably the highest paid player in Michigan football history. Just think 5 years ago would we have ever said that phrase, but you just wonder what's going to happen if they do throw the book at them, and Michigan's going to be all indignant, and all their water carriers, Sam Webb and who's the other guy, Ballas and Isaiah Hole, and all those guys are going to be nothing wrong, whatever. And so, it is. And of course, we'll all tune into Valenti, the Detroit radio guy, and he'll be sitting there cackling, laughing for 3 hours. So there you go.
Valenti, the perfect combination. He's from New York originally, and now he's been in Detroit for a while. He's a Michigan State grad. Yeah, he's hilarious. He's that perfect.
He hates Michigan with a passion.
New York City and Detroit. It's like he's like both of those energies just mixing, and it's great radio. It's great. Sometimes when his co-host is talking, I just fast forward. His co-host seems like a nice guy. I tune in to hear what Valenti is saying. It's probably like people on our show. They fast forward while I'm talking to hear you, Steve.
I don't know about that.
All right. Texas game. I kept thinking it was just, that's going to be noon. Announce it's on Fox. It's definitely going to be noon. But not so fast, my friend, to use a Lee Corso phrase. Because Fox, as you know, Fox did not say when they announced that they are going to have the game that it's going to be on noon. There's a lot of pushback from Ohio State and others that this should be a primetime game. What's your best guess? You think it'll be noon or primetime? Or
that is a great question. I just wonder if there's some play in the contract for Fox to play ball with Ohio State in Texas, because next year when Ohio State goes to Texas and it's under the SEC contract with ESPN and ABC, it'll be probably on ABC with 8 o'clock Eastern time start, or 7:30, whatever that they do. So to my way of thinking, perhaps the Big Ten has lobbied Fox and said, look, the situation we've got here is our teams are disadvantaged with the home field advantage not being a night game, when it's so much more rowdy and just a tougher place for the opponent to come in. and play. And obviously in 2005, the teams played on ABC in Columbus. It was an 8:00 game. So, and it was also an 8:00 game down in Texas the year later when it was 1 versus 2. Yep. So, you just wonder if there's some play in this contract that maybe they work out a situation with NBC where maybe they trade windows and NBC does a game earlier in the day. There's a lot of talk that Fox may have baseball, which would just still be regular season baseball. It's not even playoff baseball the last Saturday in August. That to me.
Put that on FS1, man. No, I mean, yeah. Who cares about regular season baseball?
Yeah, with a month to play in the regular season. Yeah, with a month to play in the regular season too. I mean, it's not even October; it's the end of August. So they could easily put the baseball on Fox Sports 1 and play that game at 7:30, 8 o'clock, but they may need to make a concession to NBC, maybe swap a pick later in the season or something or the other, because I don't think NBC wants a Big Ten game up against their window. Right. It could also be at 3:30, which maybe they make a flip with CBS for CBS to take a noon game, and maybe Fox would play a Big 12 game at noon to lead into Ohio State. So there are some variables there. I'm going to say about a 60% chance, though, that it remains Big Noon because that's their franchise, and they want to brand that weekly as the place to watch college football. For them, they get big numbers then. There's no games on the West Coast, so people fall out of bed at 9 o'clock. And ESPN really doesn't stack noon with anything of note either. So typically, usually you have free reign to draw a big number at noon. It's just going to suck, for the fans in Columbus if it's at 12 o'clock, which I don't think it should be. I think it should be a 7:30 game if they can work it out. So they're certainly not going to give it to NBC as a pick. I mean, if they get the first 3 picks of the weekends, I regret to inform you, Ohio State, Michigan 1, Ohio State, Texas 2, and then it's between Penn State, Oregon, or Penn State, Ohio State. Which way do you go with that one? To pick those games. So unfortunately, the Penn State game is probably going to be a noon game later in the season, but is what it is.
I think they would pick Ohio State, Penn State over Oregon, Penn State, because Ohio State gets better ratings than Oregon.
Yep. No doubt.
I think it's that simple. I mean, Penn State's the common denominator, so I think they'll take Ohio State and Penn State. That'll be
somebody posted a graphic that in the history of Big Noon on Fox, Ohio State has more viewers than any other team, like over 200 million viewers in the years that they've done, like since 17, they've done the Big Noon. They really didn't make it Big Noon until like a year or 2 into that contract. And then they started playing all the games at noon. What sucked was last year, the last 6 games of the regular season were all at noon. And, there were obvious choices for the other networks, NBC and CBS, to put games on later in the day. And Fox was left, to pick a lot of those stupid games as noon games. And Big Ten Network, I think, had the Northwestern game at Wrigley Field because by default, they've got to have an Ohio State game, on Big Ten game, and they weren't going to get Indiana or Michigan. So that kind of fell into their lap by default, but it was at noon. So, and it was on the road too, so it really didn't matter.
Yeah, but 11 a.m. local. And
hey, last thing I'll say, that this would not have been such a hot button topic if it wasn't for the Tennessee game. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, did we get our fill of what an Ohio State night game should be all about, other than the fact they set the thermostat at about 28 degrees and blowing. Other than that, it was perfect. I mean, just a perfect night for Ohio State football. One of the great home games in Ohio State history, at least the atmosphere and the environment. I don't know about the competitive nature of the game because they whipped Tennessee's ass. So there you go.
Heck yeah, it's going to be a game we all look back on. It was the catalyst that started the national championship run. And it was the first time Ohio State's ever hosted a playoff game. Who knows how many times that's even going to happen. Hopefully a lot of times they're getting a first round bye and they won't be hosting a game, but that was super cool. I'll tell you what else is super cool. We're going to get Steve's thoughts on if Ohio State's about ready to land a huge impact player from the portal. We're going to get Steve's thoughts on that and maybe one other football topic, but I'm going to let you guys know about my new wallet, as you can see here. Oh, you can't see it? There you go. And a great deal you guys can get. Ridge Wallet. Look at this thing. Yeah. This is a wallet. You got your money clip back there. It holds up to 12 cards. So Memorial Day weekends are meant for backyard barbecues and relaxing and, watching sports, of course. But it can be hard to relax with a giant, clunky old wallet weighing your pants down. This is not going to weigh your pants down. Ridge Wallet is the slim, sleek upgrade your pockets have been begging for. Look, we've all been there hauling around a wallet that feels more like a cinder block than an accessory. It's bulky, awkward, and it's not doing your lower back any favors. I have a kind of a bad lower back anyway. That's where Ridge Wallet comes in. I tell you what, you pop this out. If you're out with your friends, you pop this on the tail. They're going to be like, what is that? It's a good conversation starter. With over 50 colors and styles, Ridge Wallet isn't just functional, it's personal. Whether you want sleek black forged carbon fiber, a wallet that features your favorite NFL team, or one that just matches your vibe, they've got you covered. All right, here you go. You guys can get a great deal. Right now, Ridge is having their huge Memorial Day sale. Get up to 40% off at ridge.com/bucknuts. Just head to ridge.com/bucknuts to see their biggest sale of the year. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Look at that thing. Yeah, baby. Let's go. All right, man. Darrion Williams transferring from Texas Tech. This would be perfect. They have one spot to fill for the Fighting Jake Dieblers. He'd be plug and play at the 3, 6'6", 225 pounds. Steve, last year at Texas Tech, 15.1 points per game, 5.5 rebounds per game, 3.6 assists per game. Shot 34% from three, but I think he's been decent three shooter for most of his career. Man, this would be a huge get, but Kansas is in on him. There's a chance he could go back to Texas Tech, and they have a oil booster who's throwing around money like crazy. But man, hopefully the Buckeyes get him. What do you think is going to happen with Darrion Williams?
Yeah, two other schools that may be involved. NC State with Will Wade moving over there. We know he's not afraid to pay players, obviously, if it comes down to it. And as our analyst said, he's kept his powder dry, so that means he's got a little bit of ammunition to buy a portal player if need be. The other one's Oregon. And Oregon, I thought last year was one of the better teams in the Big Ten. And they've got basically the nucleus of that team coming back for Dana Altman. And, that they've got, Nike money behind them. They can buy and sell anybody that they want to. So it comes down to the question, does Ohio State have the money to get into a bidding war with Kansas, NC State, Oregon, whoever else, Texas Tech, whoever else is in the running for this guy? My math skills and my front brain thinking say no. I don't think Ohio State has the money, the wherewithal to get involved in this. They've already overspent, so to speak, on Mobley, Thornton, Royal to retain them, and then to bring in some other key pieces like the center from Baylor, the center from Santa Clara, the Wright State dude, and also Gabe Cupps from Indiana. So they've spent some money here. They've flashed some cash, and I like their roster. The question is Royal really a 3 or a 4? They would like to get somebody to replace Micah Parrish at the 3 so they could continue in some instances to play Devin Royal at the 4. But even by their own admission, it's kind of hard to go an entire season with an undersized 4 because that gets exploited in some matchups. So, Darrion Williams would be a home run, and he would immediately catapult. He's a top 10 transfer portal guy, taking into account all the guys who entered the portal. So, I think 24/7 has him at number 7 on their transfer portal rankings. So that'll tell you the impact that this guy could have to come in. And, after missing the tournament 3 years in a row, Ohio State would not only make the tournament, but could be a potential, dare we say it, Sweet 16, Elite 8. I'm not even going to say the other one, but, a potential deep tournament run and also potentially save Jake Diebler's job. I think it's kind of a situation, even though it's only a second year, that the program's been down for so long, it's got to come back up. So they got to figure this thing out this year. Last year sucked with the suspension to Bradshaw, injuries to key players, and then you had a guy, Michi Johnson, just quit on him in December. It wasn't a good year. Obviously, they've got to bounce back, and they could somehow get Darrion Williams. It'd be a home run. I talked to a OSU source yesterday about it. They said, you just don't know. The number for a lot of these guys changes every day, what they want.
Right.
So, he says it's a moving target and you just hope to clip it. So
they're going to give LeBron this honorary degree, which I think is awesome. How about, hey, LeBron, help us out a little bit. We need to buy this kid.
That honorary degree is going to cost you a Nike $5 million. So.
LeBron can just look at his couch cushions and get enough to outspend Kansas. I tell you what, you're right. I mean, when Ohio State was playing by the rules during the Thad Matta era, I'll never forget his final press conference. He basically said, we did things the right way. Basically said, we didn't cheat here. He basically said that as his farewell press conference, that's what I've always heard. Ohio State didn't cheat. So when they're having to go up against Bill Self when he was cheating and Will Wade when he was cheating, there's no way they'd win that battle. Now with the foundation and people upset, people are now just starving for Ohio State to have a good basketball team again. Maybe they would be able to get in a bidding war with Kansas because Ohio State has more money than Kansas.
Well, they already lost one bidding war with
that's true.
The kid from Canton, Darrion Peterson. He went to the prep school out in California, in Napa, California, Prime Prep, I think, this past year, whatever it was, and so a prolific prep, I guess. And he's going to Kansas. Now, his father's AAU team was sponsored by Adidas, and Kansas is the lead Adidas team. So it made sense. Adidas money flowed for that one. And, they outbid Ohio State for Darrion Peterson, although I was told Ohio State made a very compelling offer for Darrion Peterson. And it's unfortunate. I think he's a guy, if you surround him with players, he could lead you, deep into the tournament as well. So, got to win this one. That would be wonderful if they're able to add Darrion Williams into this class.
Last thing, real quick, football-wise, Buckeyes got a quarterback transfer yesterday. Huge news. It's not really huge news. Ryan Day's he always says he wants 4 scholarship quarterbacks in the room. I know scholarship, what does that even mean anymore, right, with what they're doing? But, so they had obviously with Julian Sand and Lincoln Keenholz and Tavian St. Clair, they have those 3. They have walk-on Mason Maggs, who I believe is entering his final year. And they wanted to get one more just for scout team purposes like they've done in the past with Tristan Gebbia and Chugginoff and Gunnar Hoke and guys like that. So they brought in, this is an interesting name, Eli Brickhandler. Eli Brickhandler, who was the backup at Houston Christian last year. So again, this is for scout team purposes, and but that stuff's important. That stuff's important. You have to have this guy's going to be the scout team quarterback. I'm sure Tavian's going to play a lot of scout team. I'm sure Mason Maggs scout team. So Eli Brickhandler from powerhouse Houston Christian is now a Buckeye, Steve.
Yeah, this is important because during preseason camp, you're going to have multiple fields, and you're going to be able to run quarterbacks in and out of there. Not that he's going to take a lot of reps with the 1s or 2s, but he'll be able to drill and get 3s and 4s, a lot of work and that kind of thing. And then also once they get into game planning, starting for Texas 10 days out, and then each week after that, he'll be down on the defense field with the scout team offense, trying to prepare the Ohio State defense. And I think that this makes perfect sense and it also allows Tavian St. Clair a little bit of byplay where he can go either way. He can be with the offense and take an occasional rep just so he stays sharp, and also go down and on certain days be with the scout team if the quarterback has a look like Tavian St. Clair produces. So to me, I think that it is a win-win situation. Can't have enough people that can put balls in the air to prepare your tight ends and your wide receivers and running backs. And, I go back, this offense to me could really be something. This defense to me could really be something. Need some guys to grow up over on defense. I think the offensive line looks really good and the skill positions look like they're in good hands. Getting that quarterback situation solidified is key. And no one's saying this guy's going to come in and compete with Sand and Keenholz for the job, but kind of relieves a little bit of the work off some of those guys so they can be completely funneled, tunnel vision toward, working with the 1s and that type of stuff.
Great stuff from Steve Helwagen. Thank you, Steve, for doing this. I appreciate it, my friend. He is the wagon. Thanks to Steve. Thanks to all of you. We appreciate it very much. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Go Bucks. Still basking.